Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 7, of the Tuesday's division here in NRRL. And tonight we find ourselves under the lights for what should be an incredible 18-minute qualifying, followed by our 50% race. My name is JP. I'm your commentator. A pleasure to be here. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. The stream is a little bit late. I was running a little bit late with some Wi-Fi issues, but we seem to be up and running okay. Hopefully nothing plagues us during the race and all will be good. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Always one to keep your eyes on under the lights. And our Tuesday division absolutely booming at the minute. 20 drivers here tonight under the lights, ready to put on an absolute show for us. Josh, the first man out on track, most certainly looking to get on with this session. The second he was available to get out, he did. And now we await drivers on their outlaps. Currently 4 on outlaps. We've got Josh, Hash, I Have No Grip, and Mikey Boy. And new from today, a brand new calendar. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to load up the graphic due to these Wi-Fi issues. But we do have a new calendar, which will now take us to 15 rounds of this season. Tonight is round 5, sorry, not 4, or 7, or whatever I said. Tonight is round 5, Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We then have round 6, which is Monaco next week, followed by round 7 for Las Vegas, round 8 being Belgium, round 9 being Texas, round 10 being Singapore, round 11 is Canada, round 12 is Miami, round 13 is Bahrain, round 14 is Imola, before we finish the season, round 15, under the lights in Yas Marina, for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And there is a new little wild card called the Commentator Reverses the Grid wild card. So I can use it at any circuit except for Monaco and Abu Dhabi. And after qualifying, I can reverse the entire grid if I so choose to. Now, a little bit of a spoiler, I won't use it tonight. I would rather we just have a clean race tonight, because this info is very fresh to me. But that is definitely going to be something that I try and play with. So you never know. You might see someone sneak onto pole and maybe I just think, you know what? Reverse grid. Why not? And they can start last. So it is quite interesting, I must say. But that will definitely be fun for me, I must say, and I hope you guys at home, the viewers, do also enjoy that too. Josh is just coming to the end of his first flying lap for VCarb, cutting across that inside line. A 28.7 for the VCarb man. I believe it's Hash who's behind him. It is. Goes in with a 28.9. Mikey is just coming to the final corner. A little bit of traffic for him as he approached the final corner, but shouldn't be anything that holds him up too badly. He gets a little bit of a slipstream down the main straight, and it's a 28.5 for Mikey. We now have I Have No Grip coming to the line and goes to provisional pole. A millisecond quicker than Mikey. And that is incredible. Exactly a millisecond quicker. And then Sidemen replaces that by about, what is that, 8 milliseconds? My word, these times. I mean, we normally know that it gets close towards the end of qualifying and on the final laps. But that, I mean, we're on the first runs, ladies and gentlemen. And we have got drivers. Well, the top 3 are all within 9 milliseconds of each other. This is Incredible. Mr. Jabe now goes to pole by only 3 milliseconds. What is going on under the lights here at Jeddah tonight? This is... I'm dumbfounded. I'm absolutely dumbfounded. MCL invalidated on his lap. Andy Price is now coming round the final corner. This is absolutely insane. Andy Price goes into 5th with a 28.6. Billy Mewis now breaks that ducks and goes to pole by over 0.2 of a second. Beautiful lap from the McLaren driver. Mikey Boy, I believe, slotted into 5th, but is now going on another fast lap. So maybe that will contribute to a small lack of pace for Mikey. I mean, P5, while a very good position, probably not ideal for Mikey, I must say. You know, he is one of 3 world champions in this league so far. And normally up towards the sharp end. So P5 is probably not where he would want to be. We've got Jamsey, who's on the inters. Dinosaur, who is invalidated. We've got Matt Connor, who's just coming through the first sector now. And I mean, look at the session we're having so far. 28.561, 28.564, 28.576, 28.577. Then only 28.624. This session is profoundly close. I can't even tell you how. I couldn't even tell you why. Absolutely incredible stuff to start qualifying here in Jeddah tonight. Next man to take to the line, I believe, will be Matt Connor for the Scarlet Red Ferrari. Goes at P7, 28.716. Next man to watch, I believe, will be Durex, will it? Or will it be Meloon? No, I believe it will be Durex, who's just coming through the first sector and into the second sector now. Sector 2 splitter 101.4 for Durex. A little bit of understeer through there, it looked like, and he's ran wide onto the curb. Luckily, not invalidating. But the car seeming to be working not really in Durex's favour as he rounds the final corner. And again, just looking a little bit understeery as he comes to the line now. Goes P12 with a 29.1. That's not an ideal lap around here. Meloon goes to provisional pole. 0.4 of a second. And while we've been talking basically this entire session about how close it is, Meloon, 0.4 of a second clear. That is a gap and a half in NRRL. My word. And I must say, I did not see that coming whatsoever. Incredible lap from the Haas. And he puts himself, what is that, about 0.4 clear. MCL now coming towards the final corners. You would imagine this is a man that can most certainly challenge for provisional pole, especially on his day. In the Sauber, runs a little bit wide through the final corner, but nothing that's going to plague him too much. Cuts that inside line, as everybody normally does. Only P11 for MCL. That is quite the shock, I must say. We've got 4 drivers who haven't set laps. Drippy, Ginger Nut, Dinosaur and Harry. Harry actually out of the session. So I'll see if I'm able to get any info on that. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. I did miss him retiring from the session. Whether that was a crash or retiring on, well, in the pit lane. That's very odd. I believe if he would have retired out on track, I would have seen that. Or at least I would have hoped I would. Just receiving some info on it. And he did retire out on track. He found the wall. He said he went on an initial lap when the session started and kissed the wall and then completely found it. And there's Josh, who we've literally just flicked to, also finding the wall. The man currently in P3 with a 28.4, and apparently that is exactly what Harry did. So both V-carbs out at the same corner. And the Faenza-based team will have their head in their hands as they realise they've got 2 rebuild jobs to do, and both drivers falling foul at the same corner. I don't believe it. Just as I was receiving info from Harry about what he did on his lap, Josh in the sister V-carb does the exact same thing. That is quite unusual, I must say. But evidently, we move on. Dinosaur will be the next man to set a lap, provided he does set a lap as he comes through the second sector now. The Aston Martin seemingly working well underneath him. Not much battery left to use though, so you would imagine he will be quite slow down these straights. We'll gain a little bit back into the final corner. Tags the final corner. Turned in a little bit too early there. Lucky to not get damage from that contact, and will keep going. We'll come to the line now. Dinosaur goes 16th with a 29.8. The next man we look to will be Drippy, who will be setting a lap in the Haas. Doesn't make the mistake Dinosaur made. Keeps it very beautifully clean through the final corner. The Haas driver now to the line, uses all of the ERS possible, goes into P5, and look how close it is from 4th all the way down to 9th. We are talking 74 milliseconds as Mikey then breaks out of that train and goes into P2 with a 28.9, completely negates that gap that Meloon has built. Meloon will still be happy on provisional pole. 28.1 for Jamsey puts him P3 for the Works Mercedes outfit. And now we come to almost the little lull point of qualifying where nobody really on laps. They're either waiting to the very end of the session or they are just on their out laps now, as we see Hum move up into P13. Nobody on a lap as we speak. So we'll keep an eye on Ginger Nut, who's just coming through the middle sector. And he is the only man to have not set a lap thus far besides Harry, who invalidated and tagged a wall, unfortunately ending his session early. And I'm sure Harry will be absolutely screaming for me to use my reverse grid wildcard. But, as I previously mentioned, that will not be used tonight. Do not worry, ladies and gentlemen. It's a new feature that's literally been added today. So, because I only get one a season, I wouldn't want to use that too early. Ginger Nut now goes onto his flying lap. You would imagine he will have time to get round and potentially do another lap. But this could be an important lap for the Red Bull driver. His only lap of the session. We know he's done an out lap and probably about half of a push lap before he then invalidated. So this will be an important lap for himself and for Red Bull. Ginger Nut now through sector 2 he comes, one of the hardest corners at the track, I would have said that one is, but he negotiates it well. On board with the Red Bull as he now Comes towards the second sector split. It's a 101.0. And look at the grip he's got through there. Absolutely fearless to just tip the car in. He knows it will live with it. And while his teammate currently in P11, Ginger Nut seems to be absolutely flying from what I can see on track. Negotiating the final corner absolutely perfectly. Racing towards the line now. And Ginger Nut goes into P5, a 28.412. And our eyes now turn to... Is Sideman on a lap? No. Neither is I Have No Grip. Nova Piper is... Is he on a lap? We'll see when he gets to the end of Sector 1. It looks like he's on a lap. He is on a lap and he's 5/10 up. And if he can improve that time gain, he would rocket from P15 really towards the sharp end of the grid. Nova Piper, one we always expect to be up towards the sharp end. And the McLaren, evidently something changing between the first run and the second, and he is absolutely on it from the word go. Now 4/10 up, needs a lightning fast final sector if he is to improve drastically, that is. A 4/10 gain would still give him a lot of improvement, as he's actually going to get a bit of slipstream from his teammate Billy Mewis. He comes through the final corner now. Nova Piper, where can the McLaren go? Billy Mewis coming into the pits. I was going to say he'll get a slipstream. Nova Piper slots into P4, a 28.1 for him. Ginger Nut not running out of fuel, so potentially going for another lap on these soft compound tyres, which we know can work, but you've just got to try and make those tyres last in the final sector. This is a very grip-dependent track, but Ginger Nut is going to take that risk. Drippy is also on a lap, and is just coming through the first sector now, currently in P7. The Haas driver looking to improve from there. Car looking very obedient as he turns it in. And he will come to the Sector 1 split now. 3/10 up, and that would, again, if he can keep this time gain up, put him in the fight for pole. He kisses the wall on the outside, almost rides it round the final corner. But we are going to switch our attention as Hum retires from the session through the first complex of corners. We're going to switch our attention to Meloon, the man currently on provisional pole, 39 milliseconds up. And while his Haas teammate looks to improve from P10, he looks to try and extend his advantage out in front. As the qualifying session now comes to an end, everyone will have a shot apart from Billy Mewis. There's a couple drivers in the pits as well, those being the retired ones. I do apologise. Meloon, 63 milliseconds up now. It's a steady improvement for the Haas driver as Drippy moves into P6. Nova Piper comes into the pits. This will be Meloon's last attempt to try and strengthen his grip on provisional pole. I believe he just tagged the wall there out of the final corner. He cuts across that inside line. Is there improvement to be found? There is. A 27.893. Andy Price slots into third. Next driver to cross the line in the fight for pole will be Jamsey. As he comes around the final corner now, Hash retires from the session at the final corner. Here comes the Mercedes driver now then. And is there to be improvement for the works Mercedes? It's been improvement by massive margins to provisional pole by half a second. Incredible lap from Jamsey. Mikey slots into P2 with a 27.8. Just mere milliseconds quicker than Meloon. Durex has ran out of fuel. That is your grid. And Jamsey on pole position by half a second. I never thought I would see the like. Absolutely incredible lap from our Jamsey for the Works Mercedes outfit that has struggled in recent weeks. And what a way to send a message to the grid that you are back. Our Jamsey finding the grip under the lights here in Saudi Arabia. And he will be the man that starts on pole position for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here in round 5. And look at that gap. It is very, very rare that you see a gap like that in NRRL. Jamzi, take a bow, young man. That is a lap to be competed with. Meloon is in 3rd with Andy Price in 4th. Nova Piper and Billy Mewis are the McLaren 5 and 6. Drippy slots into 7th with Durex in 8th. Ginger Nut 9th and Josh completing your top 10. But what a session that was. And I mean, you look up and down the grid and the rest of it is pretty close. But Jamzi making a statement in that qualifying session. And if that is to be the pace that he has in the Grand Prix, it will be very, very difficult for everyone else to try and beat him. We will now have a little bit of a break between qualifying and the race. So I will quickly, again, apologies, I don't have the graphics. We were a little bit late to start. But in terms of the Drivers' Championship, it is currently Mikey Boy that is leading from Billy Mewis and Nova Piper. MCL in 4th with Meloon in 5th. The man today that has just taken one of the most dominant poles I've ever seen in this league, Jamzi, currently sat 6th in the World Drivers' Championship with only 18 points scored for 2nd place last time out. If we look to the constructors, it is Haas who currently lead from McLaren, Sauber in 3rd with Mercedes in 4th, Ferrari in 5th with Alpine in 6th, Red Bull 7th followed by Racing Bulls in 8th, Williams in 9th and Aston Martin in 10th. But that is absolutely absurd. I do not believe that gap from Jamzi. Absolutely outrageous stuff from the Works Mercedes. And he will be one to keep his eye on come lights out. Brilliant stuff. Quite honestly, I'm speechless. What a lap that was. I mean, as much as I personally do league race, I couldn't tell you what a good lap time is. But being half a second clear of the rest of the field, I think you'd be pretty happy with it. So I can imagine the Works Mercedes garage is absolutely beaming as we now look to the lights ahead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And it is lights out and away we go. And Jamzi does get away well from pole position. Mikey slots into 2nd place. Meloon looking to go around the outside of the Sauber for 2nd. Don't believe he's going to have the grip there. And Mikey does manage to scamper away. Is Meloon in 3rd then from Andy Price in 4th. Billy Mewis and Nova Piper still in 5th and 6th. Drippy's in 7th as Josh is in 8th. We've got a yellow flag towards the back. I can't see any damage for anyone, but Durex has gone off. And is that damage for him? There is damage as Mr. Jabe is also in the wars with some damage. Harry already up to P15. We've got Josh in 8th from Sidemen 9th. Hash is in 10th. Hum 11th. Matt Connor in 12th. Followed by MCL in 13th. Sabre is in 14th. Like I mentioned, Harry already up 5 places to 15th as we see Drippy managing to get past Nova Piper into quite an unorthodox overtaking place, but making the move work well. But for Jamzi doing exactly what he needed out in front early on. And that is the ideal start. Looking to the tyre allocation, we've got the entire top 4 on mediums from Billy Mewis on the hards in 5th. Drippy on the mediums in 6th. Nova Piper following his teammate on the hard compound tyres. We've then got the only soft runner at the minute. That's Hash, who looks to be under attack from Hum, and Hum makes the move. Now you've got Matt Connor trying to make an opportunist move and sneak up the inside as we move on to lap 2. It's Jamzi leading from Mikey. There goes Matt Connor on Hash. Is MCL potentially able to look for a move towards the outside of turn 1? That was quite a late move there from the Sauber, and he does go into the back of the Alpine. The Williams gets involved in the contact, and now look who's arriving on the scene. It's Harry for V-Carb. As we've got Matt Connor running very wide there. Hash almost putting him off onto the runoff. Matt Connor running even wider, and through goes MCL. Ever the opportunist, making a lovely move. Sabre round the outside of Harry, trying to defend that position. Matt Connor once again off of the track, and here comes Harry now as we head towards the hairpin. 3 wide into the hairpin we go. Matt Connor spooked off the track and running very, very wide. Harry gains a position there and was really the mastermind in all of that happening. He now follows Sabre Phoenix, but Matt Connor struggling early doors in this session, and again struggling on the exit. Now here comes Dinosaur. Unfortunately, not got the ERS battery reserve he would like to try and get past. But the Aston Martin putting pressure on the Scarlet Red Ferrari, who is struggling. Out in front, we've got Mikey, who's trying to chase down Jamsey. And he'll be happy that the DRS is enabled early, because otherwise he may not see Jamsey this entire Grand Prix. As we move on to lap 3 of 25, Mikey sets the fastest lap. Is there a gap down the inside for the Sauber? It doesn't look like it, as we see Drippy defending from Nova Piper once more. Josh is in that fight. Sidemen is in that fight. Looking a little bit further back, we've got Hum, who's also in that fight, as we've got mass contact at turn 1. Harry manages to go through and gain a few positions in one corner. Ginger Nut and Hash still wheel to wheel, and Hash going down the inside and is out of the session. And that looked like a desperation move there from the Alpine driver, who has been losing position since the start of this race on the soft compound tyres, sorry, looking to drive for his life, and Hash throwing it down the inside. A very miscalculated move. He is out of the session, and we have a virtual safety car deployed. Jamsey continues to lead then. From F1 Mikey Boy, it's Meloon in 3rd with Andy Price in 4th. Billy Mewis 5th and Drippy 6th with Nova Piper in 7th. Josh is the man in 8th with Sidemen in 9th. Hum in 10th. MCL 11th. Harry 12th with Ginger Nut 13th. Matt Connor 14th. Dinosaur 15th. Sabre 16th. Durex 17th. Jabeson is in 18th with I Have No Grip 19th. And a torrid day for Alpine. I Have No Grip currently sat down in 19th with Hash out of the session. And this is most certainly a weekend they will not want to remember, as we've got the safety car, or the virtual safety car period, ending, and Harry has picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC. Comes in immediately to serve it. He's followed by Ginger Nut, who I don't believe had a drive-through, so that would be a very early pit stop if that is a true pit stop. Mikey still chasing down Jamsey. Meloon is also in that fight. Andy Price is in that fight and getting very, very wide there is Drippy. And Nova Piper going straight past. Drippy really struggling on the exit there. We saw that in the background while we were watching Andy Price. Almost looked a bit more like rally rather than Formula 1. Absolutely sideways moment. Fair play to him for being able to save it, but that has lost him a lot of time. Josh is in 8th with Sidemen chasing him down. Hum is also in that fight. So then about 1.7 seconds back to MCL. Matt Connor then 4 seconds back. He's been really struggling with the pace in that Scarlet Red Ferrari. Harry comes out in 18th and actually made a pit stop there. Has he still got to serve that drive-through? He does, as does Ginger Nut. So Harry, I would imagine that pit stop would have been to serve the drive-through, and for some reason the game, I guess, not registering it. We've got a battle for the lead here between Mikey and Jamsey, and Mikey is going to send it into turn 1 we go. Little bit of contact between the pair of them. Nothing major doing though, and Mikey barging his way through into the lead. Lovely stuff from the Sauber, and fair play to the Mercedes of Jamsey for allowing him the space, as Jamsey is actually going to lose 2 positions in about the same amount of corners as Meloon now sneaks through, and Andy J. Price thinks, well, I'll get involved on this one. Deploying the overtake now towards the outside line. Is Jamsey about to lose a third place? Into the hairpin we go. Andy looking to the outside. The Red Bull just not got enough grip to be able to go around the outside there. As the time penalties start tumbling in from all of these drivers. And Jamsey looks to try and recoup. A little bit of a wobble there of oversteer. Nothing incredibly major for the Mercedes driver though. But definitely needing to recoup in that cockpit. Is the move on Mikey was completely fair. But how Meloon got through, I don't think I'll actually ever know. That was completely out of the blue. We come around the final corner now to begin lap 6 of 25. And it is Mikey who leads. It's about a 4/10 gap to Meloon. I would imagine you need a little bit more of a gap than that if you want to try and make a move. The Haas just having a sniff down the inside, but nothing doing, as we see Drippy manage to get back past Nova Piper after having that moment at the end of the first sector. Completely sideways was the Haas driver. They're now 2 seconds behind Billy Mewis. We see Durex battling away with Dinosaur into turn 1. And that looks like quite bad damage that Durex has got there. It doesn't just look like the end plate that's gone there. Sabre just making a little bit of contact with the rear. And Jamsey is falling down even more. Andy Price has got him, as has Billy Mewis, sorry. Our Jamsey, the pole sitter, who sat on pole by over half a second, struggling in race conditions, and in the space of about a lap and a half has gone down from the lead of this Grand Prix to 5th, and he looks to be struggling. The grip just not there for the Mercedes driver. What is going on out there? He doesn't look to have any confidence. I fully expected this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to be dominated by Jamsey after qualifying. But Jamsey, I mean, the tyres look a bit messed up, but they don't look absolutely horrible. So I must say that's very confusing. Mikey comes in to the pit lane. That seems like quite an early stop on the mediums. Josh comes and follows him in. It is hard compound tyres that go on the Sauber. You would imagine it is hard compound tyres that go on the V-carb. So you would imagine they're running to the end of the race. At the back of the grid, we've got Harry versus Ginger Nut as Sabre gets a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. And you would imagine that's what gained him those positions over the Aston Martins. I Have No Grip sets the fastest lap of the race. Currently sat P17 though. Drippy is gaining back towards this battle. Andy Price has just fallen off the back of Meloon. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 1, and that is one of the Aston Martins, I believe. And that is Dinosaur, who is completely round towards the end of Sector 1. And a bit of a weird place to go round there. Whether he's made contact with the wall, I don't know. The front wing is still intact. But Dinosaur now down to 16th, and that does almost feel like race ruined. Only 25 laps of this Grand Prix. We've completed 7 of them, soon to be 8, as MCL manages to get past Hum up into 8th place through the final corner. We'll have some defensive work ahead of him to try and stay ahead, but Hum not really with any battery, you would imagine, won't be able to fight that. Billy Mewis doing a very good job in 3rd on the hard compound tyres, managing to keep with the leaders and put them under some pressure. And you would imagine penalties will also play a factor in this race, as they do in every race in NRRL. I seem to spend half my time in the commentary booth trying to work out where people will finish after penalties, and already a few drivers with penalties. We've got Sabre, who's came into the pits to retire. Mikey came out in 11th place. It's Durex in 12th. Mr. Jabe in 13th. Josh in 14th. And Dinosaur also comes into the pits now. We've got Meloon, who leads from Andy Price in second, and that gap just fluctuating about the second mark. Andy is in the DRS, and that will draw him closer. Billy Mewis putting him under massive pressure though. And as we move towards the final corner, Billy will look to be a threat, but Andy with a bit more battery and saving. Billy Mewis with no battery at all, no care at all about saving. Sabre leaves the session after his retirement, and you can't blame him for that. So we move on now to lap 9. Pole sitter Jamsey comes into the pits, and it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in terms of Mikey. We know Mikey pitted quite early, and it's a Mercedes double stack actually, as Hum also comes into the pits. Doesn't look like he will be held up. He gets held up a very small increment, but nothing major. And Jamsey is going to come out well behind Mikey. So the undercut, very, very powerful around this Jeddah Corniche circuit. And I mean, look at the time that Mikey has gained 3 seconds. And that was for, well, I believe, what, 2, 3, maybe 4 laps of undercut. Looking very, very powerful. Drippy in all that picked up a 3-second penalty. He's 2.2 seconds behind Billy Mewis. He's got Nova Piper for company. And this trio that leads, all looking to put pressure on each other. Andy Price looks to appear to be under a little bit more pressure than he is putting Meloon under pressure. Billy is gaining well. Andy Price just sticking to the back of that Hasto. As you would imagine, we get towards the pit window for the medium runners. The top 2 don't come in, and look at that in the background. We've got Drippy, who really just accepted he was going to be overtaken there, decides to come in for his pit stop, and the hard runners are looking very strong in this phase of the race so far. Lap 10 of 25, and it is Meloon who leads this one for Haas. It is Andy Price in second. Our highest hard runner is Billy Mewis in third. It's a McLaren 3-4 with Nova Piper in fourth. It's a Sauber 5-6 with MCL in fifth and Mikey in sixth. And we've got a virtual safety car deployed. And I can't see anybody stationary on the track, so that's quite a weird one. Doesn't look like anyone's got any major damage either. We know Durex already had damage, but I couldn't see anyone with any major damage. I didn't see anyone stationary. But as the virtual safety car comes in once more, quite a short virtual safety car period, Dinosaur retires from the session and is our third retiree of the night. And Jamsey, to be fair to him, is pulling that gap down between himself and Mikey absolutely massively, sorry. And while Mikey is just gaining battery back, as we see Billy Mewis make a move round the outside of the final corner on Andy Price. Is Andy Price coming into the pit lane? He isn't. Meloon comes into the pits from the lead. So this now makes this a battle for the lead between Billy and Andy. Nova Piper also getting involved. MCL is now in fourth. You would imagine Mikey will get up into fifth, but he will have to defend from Jamsey first, who has found a new lease of life on these hard compound tyres. They do go through on Meloon by quite some margin, around 3 seconds that gap is. But Jamsey right on the back of the Sauber, and like I say, finding a new lease of life on these hard compound tyres. Maybe just a little bit worse tyre degradation for the Works Mercedes. Out in front though, we've got Andy Price who leads from Billy Mewis. It's Nova Piper in third. MCL just running his own race in fourth, not too concerned about gaining to the leaders. And Billy Mewis really coming at the back of Andy Price now. Andy's tyres, we know, will be dying out. Just not enough battery for Billy to try and make a move. Only 8% battery, not really managing that battery very well. And Andy will now finally dart into the pits, one of only 2 men to yet have pitted, and the 2 McLarens now left to fight out on track, and Nova Piper goes through into the lead. 11 lap old hards. You would imagine they will go for a few more laps. Mikey sets the fastest lap of the race while he tries to escape away from Jamsey. And these guys all gaining quite the gap on Andy Price, who's going to fall quite far behind the rest of the pack here. Comes out in 9th place. Now the question is for Mikey, will those tyres hold on to the end? Jamsey pitted 2 laps after him. Meloon pitted 4 laps after him. The 3 leaders, the 2 McLarens and his Sauber teammate, you would imagine will stay out for at least a few more laps. Nova Piper getting a little bit sideways there. DRS will be enabled for Billy Mewis. Doesn't look like he's really getting close to the back of the sister McLaren, though. As we go towards the final corner, is there a gap down the inside? Thinks better of it. Now they race towards turn 1 to begin lap 13. And Billy, easily with the pace as his teammate, just harvests back some battery. And Billy Mewis takes the lead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It is then Nova Piper in 2nd, MCL in 3rd, with Mikey in 4th, Jamsey right behind him in 5th. Meloon is 6th, Drippy 7th, after just having set the fastest lap of the race, but picks up a penalty just on the beginning of this new lap. Josh is in 8th, with Andy Price in 9th. Matt Connor is in 10th. It seems we've got a little battle here going on between Harry and Jabe Jabeson. Jabe using absolutely all of his battery in getting past Harry. Harry pitted a long time ago, though. Andy Price has managed to get past Josh, as Josh potentially having contact with the wall, front wing damage, and was running very slowly for a moment there, the V-Carb driver, just as we were watching his teammate being passed. Josh evidently having a moment. 1 of 3 drivers with a penalty so far. We'll quickly look at the penalties. It's 9 seconds for Drippy, 6 seconds for Josh, 3 seconds for Humbled. And a very difficult circuit we know this is, as Nova Piper retakes the lead from his teammate. Difficult on the track limits this. Nova Piper once again getting a little bit sideways in a traction zone, and Nova Piper is going to come into the pit lane as we begin lap 14. And it'll be interesting to see where he comes out. MCL moves on into 2nd and is really under pressure from the lapped Mercedes of Hum, I believe that is. Is he lapped? Believe he must be. Oh wait, no. Okay, I'm very confused all of a sudden. There was a Mercedes right on the back of MCL. I'm losing me marbles, I must say. Jamsey right on the back of Mikey. And that is the battle currently for the final podium position. But we've still got Billy Mewis left to pit. We had a yellow flag in Sector 1, I believe. That was for either the Ferrari of Sidemen or for Josh. I would imagine it's Josh again, because now down in 12th is the V-Carb driver. No more damage for him. But Josh beginning to struggle. 7 laps on those hard tyres. Billy still working well out in front. And we've got Mikey right on the back of his teammate MCL. And Jamsey is going to look to make this 3 wide. Bracing against the wall. Mikey gets past. Jamsey manages to get past MCL on the tyres that have been on the Sister Sauber since the beginning of this race. Now, is this Jamsey's opportunity to try and get past? Mikey without any battery. Here comes the Works Mercedes. Towards the outside of turn 1 we go. Later on the brakes for the Mercedes. Round the outside he sweeps. Is there enough traction for him? He has a little bit of snap on the exit. But now they are wheel to wheel once more. And you would surely always favour the inside line there. But Jamsey showing us how to go around the outside. And at perfect timing as we've got a safety car deployed. Because Josh is out of the session. Durex gets a 10-second penalty for coming into the pit lane too quickly. Gingernut also comes into the pits, and I'll tell you who this really will benefit. This will benefit the likes of Billy Mewis and MCL, who have yet to come into the pit lane. And this is definitely a day that VCarb will want to forget. There's 10 laps left to go in this race, so Harry, currently down in 16th, can try and rescue something. But this definitely isn't the ideal weekend for the Faenza-based outfit. Safety car here on lap 15 of 25. That is due to Josh's crash. And you would imagine surely Billy Mewis into the pits. He is. That will leave Jamsey to, well, I was going to say lead this race, but he comes into the pits, as does Mikey, as does Meloon. You would then imagine as does MCL. MCL does dive into the pits. Drippy almost looking to make an overtake into the pit lane. Andy Price stays out and will inherit the lead of this one. Nova Piper also stays out and will inherit second place. And a whole train of cars coming into the pit lane as Matt Connor is also going to come into the pits. So that will leave Jamsey in third with Billy in fourth, Mikey fifth, Meloon sixth, MCL in seventh, Humbled in eighth, Sidemen ninth with Drippy 10th, Matt Connor in 11th. Although Durex is going to snatch that 11th away from Matt Connor, having not pitted. And I would imagine Andy Price in quite a good position currently. Only 4 laps on those hard compound tyres. Yes, nearly everyone behind is on new mediums or new hards. But 4-lap old hard tyres most certainly won't be that degraded and will easily take him to the end of this race, especially with the safety car period. And now as the race just settles down, Andy Price, an inspired decision to stay out, that could be quite the choice that he has made. Lap 16 of 25 of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and it is Andy Price that leads under the safety car from Nova Piper in second. Jamsey is in third with Billy Mewis in fourth. Mikey is in fifth with Meloon in sixth. MCL finds himself in seventh with Humbled in 8th, Sidemen 9th and Drippy in 10th. I would imagine the safety car will be in this lap. And it is just I Have No Grip who looks to make his way towards the back of the field as Harry just rocks up to the back of Jabeson. There we are then. The pack once again forms up. 4 retirees in this session thus far. Those being Josh, Dinosaur, Sabre and Hash. And we always know this circuit so punishing on mistakes. And can be quite hard to overtake, so it does almost force people into quite opportunist moves. And that is what makes this track so very lethal. Like I say, I would imagine, yes, safety car in this lap. And we will go racing on lap 18. Andy Price, the question is for the Red Bull driver, when does he launch away? Matt Connor gets a 10-second penalty for a severe collision with Meloon, and Andy has gone. Nova Piper has been caught a little bit napping. Our Jamsey is in third, looking to gain on the car ahead of him. Billy Mewis on the medium compound tyres. Just in behind, we see Humboldt doing battle with Sidemen early on and managing to take that position away. Up into 7th goes the Works Mercedes. It's Drippy who's in 9th with Durex in 10th. Meloon is in 11th. Matt Connor 12th. Ginger Nut 13th. Jabeson 14th. Harry in 15th. A little bit of contact with the wall there for Harry. And again, just to make sure the walls know he's there. In his pursuit of Jabeson. And Nova Piper is really putting pressure on Andy Price for the lead. You would imagine Andy will switch the battery on now. Nova Piper enabling the overtake button. And yes, no DRS under the first lap under the safety car, but that doesn't mean no action. As the McLaren looking very racy on the medium tyres. As he now pulls towards the outside line, and this is surely going to be a change for the lead here as he roars round the outside. Andy will look to be late on the brakes, and there's contact, and Andy massively into the wall. You would imagine surely damage for the Red Bull driver, and heartbreak for the Red Bull man as he now comes into the pit lane to repair that damage. But contact with Nova Piper at the final corner. He was trying to be late on the brakes to keep it down the inside and leave himself a fighting chance. But unfortunately for Andy Price and for Red Bull, you would imagine that is their race over. Lap 19 of 25 of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And Nova Piper is the man that leads. Mikey right behind him, putting him under pressure on the hard compound tyres. It is then Jamsey, our pole sitter, in third. MCL is in fourth. And what a day this has been for Sauber and for Mercedes. Sauber second and fourth. Mercedes third and fifth. Even for McLaren leading and seventh. And you would imagine Billy Mewis will gain some positions before this race is done. But now here comes Mikey towards the final corner. Not using any battery, but is still gaining on the McLaren. Looks to the outside line. Doesn't look too concerned with making a move. Runs out a little bit wider to get a better exit. And the racing IQ from Mikey there surely will take him into the lead of this Grand Prix. Has the inside line. It's an easy move. One of the easiest moves you'll ever see. And now our Jamsey is going to put Nova Piper under some pressure as we race into turn 1. Little bit of contact between them. And now ever the opportunist MCL makes his way through. And just in 2 corners, Nova Piper losing 3 positions from the lead down to 4th. It is Mikey who now leads, albeit with a 3-second time penalty though. But he's looking to get on with this race. Already roaring out in the lead. Nova Piper evidently struggling. Now picking up a 3-second time penalty. Jamsey is in 2nd from MCL in 3rd. And what a day this is for Sauber. Humbled losing some positions. He's down into 6th. And look how close this is between Billy, between Sidemen, Humbled. You've got Drippy in there, Nova Piper, MCL. Mikey out in front though, looking to make a statement at this phase of the race. Both of them on 4-lap old hard compound tyres. And Mikey absolutely racing away with this one. Lap 20 of 25 of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And MCL now looking to make it a Sauber 1-2 and succeeding in doing so. MCL on the medium compound tyres. Jamsey will have DRS to try and get his way back past the Sauber. And he is gaining towards turn 1. He's going to look towards the inside line. Not close enough though, as we see Drippy absolutely send it down the inside. And a little bit too late on the brakes from the Haas driver. And a big mistake there sends him completely wide. And from challenging to 4th, all the way down to 11th. And Harry is going to look to compound those issues and maybe turn it into 12th, as we've got Sidemen and Billy Mewis doing battle. And Meloon, ever the opportunist, managing to get his way through. And Sidemen looks to be really struggling at this phase of the Grand Prix. But out in front, it is Sauber from Sauber. Jamsey is in 3rd with Nova Piper in 4th. Humbled is in 5th. And we'll have a great chance of gaining on the McLaren ahead as Nova Piper's dropped out of DRS. Billy Mewis is in 6th place with Meloon in 7th. Sidemen is the man in 8th for Ferrari. Jabeson in 9th. But I mean, look at the gap that Mikey is pulling, and MCL only helping in doing so. And if he can get him a 3-second gap and then defend from the cars behind, we could well be looking at a Sauber 1-2. But Jamsey, the closest man to MCL, will be looking to stop that as we see Meloon and Billy Mewis doing battle into the final corner. That's very close between the Haas and the McLaren, and Meloon manages to get the move done. I believe that was defence, so remains in 6th place. And we'll now look to try and put some pressure on the back of Humbled rather than being under pressure from Billy Mewis. MCL just pulling that gap down a little bit between himself and his teammate through the first sector. Whether that was a mistake from Mikey or speed from MCL, we will never know. But that gap now skyrocketing back up again as Mikey potentially using a little bit of battery to regain that gap. And only a 3-second penalty, I believe, for Mikey it is. So just a few more tenths and Mikey would be able to win this Grand Prix. The only issue is the drivers behind do have DRS. The likes of Jamsey, Nova Piper, Humbled and Meloon and Billy Mewis all in that train. Will be looking to gain on MCL, which will force him to use his battery. And this train having DRS will only help them gain towards the back of the leading Sauber. As Jamsey gains once again on MCL towards the final corner we go. Doesn't think about a move. He wants to save that for the main straight. And MCL struggling out the final corner, but a bit of a snap for Jamsey compounds his issues. But with the DRS, surely will be close enough to go for a move here. He chooses the inside line as MCL defends the outside, but it's an easy move for the Mercedes. Late on the brakes, MCL will look for the switchback, and Jamsey with a massive moment on the exit. And MCL playing that absolutely perfectly, but clips the wall in doing so. No damage for the Sauber. And MCL playing that absolutely perfectly, almost psychic, knowing that Jamsey was going to make that mistake on the exit of turn 2. And all the positions stay the same. And all that's done is let Mikey pull that gap that he needed to. Meloon makes a move on Hum. That's quite an unorthodox overtaking spot. Good move there from the Haas driver. Drippy doing the exact same, going down the inside of the hairpin, up into the points paying positions, moving past the Williams of Durex. Harry is also trying to get involved in that fight in the V-Carb. Again, just kissing the wall, letting him know that he's there. But Mikey, now leading this race by 3.7 seconds, doing everything that he needs to do to try and win this one. It's lap 23 or lap 25. We're about to go on to lap 24. And Mikey with a brilliant chance. Harry picks up a 3-second time penalty. Currently down in 12th, doing battle with Durex. But round 2 between MCL and Jamsey as we barrel towards turn 1. MCL again choosing to defend the outside. Jamsey looks towards the inside. That's very close between the Mercedes and the Sauber. And MCL perfect in his defense. And Nova Piper now looking to try and get involved in the fight. Jamsey having to attack and defend at the exact same time. Doing a good job of it though, remaining in 3rd. But MCL perfect defense of his 2nd place. And this Sauber 1-2 now really starting to look like a possibility as we're on the penultimate lap. Sauber looking incredibly strong in this Grand Prix and will only strengthen their Constructors' World Championship lead. And Mikey Boy only will extend his Drivers' World Championship lead. And what a race this has been. Billy Mewis really gaining on the back of Humboldt. This is the battle for 6th and Humboldt running wide, and surely that allows Billy Mewis a chance to get past. And Billy Mewis never going to miss an opportunity to try and make an overtake through into 6th. The only issue is he doesn't have much battery, and Humboldt and Sidemen behind do have a little bit more. We can see Meloon and Nova Piper now doing battle. The Haas gaining towards the rear wing of the McLaren. Is there going to be a move into turn 1? The Haas is going to look for it. Makes Nova Piper defend. Nothing that Meloon can do, but we're now on to the final lap of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And for the man Mikey out in front, he has done exactly everything he has needed to do this entire Grand Prix. Yes, he picked up the penalty, but when it mattered after the safety car, he got himself into the lead and he absolutely pushed through it. Made the moves when he needed to, built the gap when he needed to, and is only going to strengthen his World Championship lead here tonight under the lights. And yes, it's early doors in the championship. Yes, we've got an extended calendar. But you can never complain with leading the championship and strengthening that. And in the latter part of this Grand Prix, a dominant showing from Mikey, proving why he is one of the best in NRRL when he is on his day. As he now makes his way towards the final corner. Many a time we've said it in NRRL, and many a time we've said it in the Tuesdays division. But for F1 Mikey Boy and Sauber, it is yet another win as Mikey comes home to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It is a dream day for the Swiss outfit of Sauber, who finish 1-2 with MCL in 2nd. Pole sitter Jamsey has to settle for the final podium position in 3rd. Meloon managed to make a pass on Nova Piper in the final lap and claim 4th. It is Nova Piper who finishes in 5th, with Sidemen 6th, Billy Mewis 7th, Humboldt 8th, Jabe Jabeson in 9th, and Ginger Nut in 10th. Getting the last points paying position And you may laugh about traction control, P1, but he's the man that's won the race in relatively dominant fashion. And you can't argue with the World Championship leader. There is your classification. And it is F1 Mikey Boy that wins. From MCL in second, a dream day for Sauber. It is Jamsey in third, Meloon in fourth, Nova Piper in fifth, Sidemen sixth, Billy Mewis in seventh, Humbled is in eighth with Jabe Jabeson in ninth, Gingernut completes the points in 10th, Drippy in 11th, with I Have No Grip 12th, Durex in 13th, Harry 14th, Andy Price in 15th, with Matt Connor, Josh, Dinosaur, Sabre and Hash failing to reach the flag. And P1, I must say, if you think he won because of his full traction, next time you race, please feel free to run full traction and win the race for us. I would absolutely love to see that. But thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back tomorrow for the Super League, so make sure you are tuning in then. Thank you to everyone on Twitch and on TikTok for viewing. Make sure you drop a follow down below. P1, I do hope that we see you soon driving, and definitely prove to me that you can win on full traction. I would absolutely love to see that. If it's only full traction that has caused Mikey to win, I'm sure you can do it too then. Thank you everyone for watching on Twitch and on TikTok. We will see you tomorrow night for the Super League. My name has been JP. I have been your commentator.